Welcome to a deep dive into something that might just change the way you see challenges forever.
Ooh, I like
We're
that.
diving into the world of Abraham Hicks, and trust me, if you ever feel like life's throwing you curveballs, this is one conversation you won't want to miss.
It's interesting you should put it that way. Abraham Hicks often talks about how life is a journey of creation, and those curveballs, those are actually the most valuable tools we have.
Okay, that's a perspective shift right there.
Yeah.
So let's break it down. We're talking about contrast today,
Yeah.
and I'm guessing it's a little more profound than just clashing patterns in our wardrobe.
Definitely more profound. Think of contrast as anything that doesn't feel good. Those experiences we tend to label as bad or unwanted. It's that frustration when things don't go our way. The disappointment of a missed opportunity, even just a day that feels off kilter.
Okay, so those moments we usually try to avoid. Abraham Hicks says those are actually good.
Good. They're essential. You see, Abraham teaches that we don't create from a place of having, but from a place of wanting. And contrast. Contrast is the catalyst that sparks those wants into being. It's like the universe nudging us, saying, hey, if you don't want this, what do you want?
So those tough experiences are actually highlighting what we do want, even if we don't realize it consciously.
Precisely. Remember that story Abraham tells about the woman who kept manifesting flat tires? Every time she left the house, bam, flat tire. It seemed like the universe was against her.
Okay, I've heard that one. It's kind of hilarious in a cosmic sort of way.
Right. And when she finally got honest with herself and asked, what do I want instead of these flat tires, it turned out her deeper desire wasn't for perfect tires at all. It was for more quality time with her husband, who always came to her rescue. That's contrast at work, showing us what we don't want so we can get crystal clear on what we do want.
Okay, so it's not about aiming for a life with zero bumps in the road. That'd be kind of boring anyway, wouldn't it?
Yeah. Exactly. Think of it this way. Would you appreciate a breathtaking view if you'd never experienced the effort of climbing the mountain? Would a delicious meal be as satisfying if you'd never experienced hunger?
I see what you mean. So those bumps, those contrasts, they're like the stepping stones on the path to creating a life that truly lights us up. But how do we actually use them that way? Because honestly, my knee-jerk reaction isn't usually, oh, thank you, universe, for this delightful contrast.
That's completely natural. Our minds are wired to seek comfort and avoid discomfort. But what if, instead of resisting those contrasting experiences, we embraced them as feedback? That's actually step one in this process, acknowledging the contrast without resistance.
So not trying to slap on a happy face when we're feeling totally bummed out.
Exactly. Pushing against those unwanted feelings just amplifies them. It's like trying to hold a beach ball underwater. The more you resist, the more forceful the eventual splash. Instead, imagine holding that beach ball, gently acknowledging its presence without letting it control you.
Okay, I like that visual. So we acknowledge the contrast, we're holding that beach ball gently, we're listening to the feedback. Now what? Do we just stand there and get splashed?
Not quite. Here's where the real magic happens. Once we've acknowledged the contrast, we need to identify the desire it's pointing to. Abraham often uses the analogy of a restaurant menu. Imagine you're looking at a menu, but instead of listing dishes, it lists all the things you don't want to eat.
So like burnt toast, soggy vegetables, lukewarm coffee. Definitely wouldn't order any of that.
Exactly. But as you read that negative menu, it starts to clarify what you do want. Maybe a perfectly toasted bagel, a crisp salad, a steaming cup of herbal tea. Every unwanted experience helps us clarify its opposite, which is where our true desire lies. So when you're hit with contrast, ask yourself, what do I want instead of this?
So if I'm feeling overwhelmed by work, instead of dwelling on the overwhelm, I'd ask myself, what do I want instead of this feeling?
Precisely. And the answer might surprise you. It could be a desire for more organization, clearer boundaries, a more supportive team, or even a completely different career path. The contrast is simply the catalyst urging you to get clear on what you'd rather create.
Okay, this is making so much sense. So contrast is like a cosmic mirror showing us what we don't want so we can clarify what we do want. But then how do we actually make that shift? How do we go from feeling stuck in the contrast to moving towards the desire?
That, my friend, is where step 3 comes in. And it's a game changer, shifting our focus to that new desire. Remember, Abraham teaches that the universe responds to our vibration, our predominant thoughts, feelings, and focus.
So where we put our attention is where our energy flows.
Yeah.
Kind of like those vision boards people talk about, but with our thoughts and feelings.
Exactly. It's like tuning a radio. If you want to listen to a specific station, you have to adjust the dial until you're aligned with that frequency. The more you focus on what you want, the more you visualize it, feel it, embodies it, the more you align with its vibration, and the more likely it is to manifest in your reality.
Okay, I'm getting a visual here. So if contrast is like that initial static on the radio,
Yeah.
tuning into our desire is like finding that crystal clear station, the one that really makes us want to dance.
You've got it. It's about shifting from a vibration of lack to a vibration of abundance, from a feeling of I don't have this to a feeling of I am open to receiving this. And here's the key. It doesn't have to be a massive leap from despair to ecstasy. Even a small shift in your emotional state can make a big difference.
So going back to that radio analogy, I don't have to go from heavy metal to polka music in one jump. I can maybe ease into something a little more upbeat first.
Exactly. Think of it as a scale from 1 to 10, with 1 being the most negative emotion and 10 being pure bliss. If you're at a 2 feeling frustrated or discouraged, don't pressure yourself to jump to a 10 right away. Just aim for a 3 or a slight shift towards a better feeling thought.
So maybe instead of saying, this is a disaster, I'm never going to figure this out, I could try something like, okay, this is a bit of a challenge, but I'm open to finding a solution.
Exactly. And as you practice this, you'll find that those little shifts start to add up. It's like that saying, energy flows where attention goes. The more you focus on what feels good, the more you align with those desires, and the more you allow the universe to orchestrate the how of bringing them into your reality.
This is such a powerful reminder. We have more control than we think. But what about those moments when we're in the thick of it, like knee-deep in a frustrating situation and not even sure where to start?
That's where the art of pivoting comes in. It's a real-time technique that anyone can use to shift from a negative state to a more positive one. The moment you recognize you're caught in an unwanted feeling or situation, that's your cue to pivot.
So it's like a mental reset button we can hit anytime we need to.
Exactly. Instead of dwelling on the problem or getting swept away by negative emotions, hit pause and ask yourself that powerful question. What do I want instead? And then instead of trying to force a feeling, just gently guide your thoughts towards something that feels a little bit better.
This whole concept is so empowering. It really reframes challenges, doesn't it? It's not about erasing contrast from our lives altogether, because as we've learned, that's where the gold is. It's about learning to use contrast as a springboard, a catalyst for growth and clarity.
Absolutely. It's like those contrast filters photographers use. They don't get rid of the shadows. They just make the desired subject even more vivid and clear. Contrast, in a way, helps us sharpen our focus on what we truly desire to create in our lives.
Such a great analogy. So as we wrap up our deep dive into contrast with Abraham Hicks, what's the one thing you want our listeners to remember?
Remember, contrast is not the enemy. It's a natural and even essential part of our journey of creation. Embrace those bumps in the road, listen to the feedback they're offering, and use them as opportunities to clarify your desires and create a life that truly lights you up.
Beautifully said. And there you have it, your deep dive into contrast and clarity with Abraham Hicks. We hope this inspires you to look at challenges in a whole new light and embrace the incredible journey of creation that is your life. Until next time.